Hello everyone, this is Funk's my name, and following up from Selgin's webinar this morning, which was really interesting, and if you haven't seen it yet, it's already available on YouTube or on the Lost Marble forum or Animators forum. This is a rig I've been fiddling with a little bit and developed a few ideas that I've not used before, and because it's my most recent rig I haven't used since yet, but hopefully they will make sense. Some of this stuff was shown by Selgin and I can't take any credit for it. It was ideas developed by him during the beta, which was this foot turning thing, which I just blew my mind when I first saw it. But one of the cool things you'll notice about SmartBones now is that the rig is so simple, and the only reason I've separated certain things is for masking reasons. For example, the dress here masks the lines on the dress, so that makes it much easier to animate than having a segmented shape all the way up. But really it's actually quite simple. There's a lot less bones and no need for using strange bone rig mechanisms to get a lot of this done. So first I just wanted to go through the rig and show you what's going on. So one thing that was noticed and documented by Mike Kelly was how he had a female character with a dress, and the problem he had was when bending legs in the same direction, if they affected the dress directly, the dress would just go flying off into space. So one thing I've done here is I've actually separated the legs and the dress into two separate sets of bones, so I can actually just manually correct that, which means I can also animate and flap the dress independent of the limbs that are below it, but it works in both directions. Even if I set both up in the same direction, they don't fly up like they would have done otherwise. So that's one thing which is quite handy. Another thing which Selgin showed was with head turns. Actually, I'm not sure if he showed it or not. I mean, he did actually with his monkey character. He showed it, but you can actually go further. You can go all the way around, and this will come in handy for body turns if that's what you want to do. Again, what I've done is I've separated the tilt based on his original technique. So I've got the neck moving and I've got the head movement, but then I've got the head turning on this bone. Personally, at the moment, I mean, I've done a lot less production than him, so I don't have any good reason at this point to separate the head into its own bone group, because personally I just prefer to have all the control bones at the highest level, and it means I can just animate the entire thing from that bone layer. But thinking about it in production, I think when you're tweaking just facial animation and you're doing the body and the face in separate passes, it will probably be quite useful to have a clean timeline. So, you know, that's always an option if you want to do it that way, separating things. Now, one thing that I did do, and now I think I'll continue doing, is having this hand rig, for example. It's got the wrist bone, which, as discussed, is just for rotating the wrist. But then I've got several different switches that are all, they all stick with the hand. So I've always got the option for rigging the hand and for animating the hand at the hand instead of having switches off to the side that do different things for the hand. And I'll just show you what these do. So what I've done is through a multi frame action, I've made it so as the bone passes each finger, the fingers actually bend, which makes it just gives a really natural way of controlling the hand, because I know that if I want two fingers open, I just move it here. If I want one finger open there, if I want a thumb up, I can do it here. And one of the things with that is, in addition, is if I wanted to point but wanted to close the thumb, that needed to have a separate action. So what I've done is I've added this bone at the end, which I won't use unless I actually want to close the thumb, and change this to a point. Now, it's important to be the person who makes these decisions in your own rigs, because these will not mix naturally at any point. It's not a universal way of doing things. Actually, a nice side effect is with this thumb bending in particular is I didn't plan for this pose, but actually it's a really nice pose. It's quite a subtle pose for picking up. Oh, the wife's sneezing. For picking up a flower or something, something of that nature. And again, it's just done that. So, but as you can see, this action completely messes up the hand once I go past this finger. It just wasn't meant to go past that finger. And there's no way to set up constraints for the angles based on where, if this is at this angle, then this can turn, but if this is that angle, it can't. So basically you have to just remember how you set things up, and you need to fiddle. But if you actually do it that way, it's a really versatile way of doing things. So I've got another bone here which actually rotates the hand in a three-dimensional sort of way. Again, this bone will not mix nicely with this bone, and if I start to put this bone in to close this hand, it just looks like a complete mess. Or if I do any of this stuff, it's just so. Once I'm using this bone, this chain is what I need to use, and this will create a fist at this pose. Again, I don't want to undo this while it's bent over, so they have very specific uses. But if you set this up and you know what you're doing with it, then you know what not to do in order to mix. So I can turn, I can close the fist, I can open, and then I can use this one, and then if I want to, I can point. So it's a really versatile hand rig. It doesn't use any switch layers. Everything's just easy and there. And another thing is that if you want to flip the hand, like if the hand is going to be animated up and then you want to flip it, all you need to do is scale this bone from 1 to -1, which you can't do just by rolling, but that rotates the hand, so the thumb is now in the opposite direction. It does reverse these actions, but they're still working perfectly well. So so it's just a way of doing that. And Mike Kelly very kindly made me a script which I've added to a shortcut now for flipping that bone. So it's very easy to just animate, flip the bone, and turn your hand if that's what you want to do. So as this is already getting quite long, and there's something else I wanted to show you was well, one last thing is Selgin mentioned it about creating phonemes or phonemes, or however you pronounce it, using normal standard actions. Let me just show you here the list of actions here is fairly long, but thanks to using Ramon's helpers. It's a really easy task to just create these things. So one last thing I wanted to show was if I just bring this body back to its natural position, one of the regular morphs that I've created is for a body rotation. So where did that window go? Let's see. Here we go. It's just open now. So what I've got here is because we don't have support for positioning of bones at the moment with smart bones, I have to do this with a separate morph. It's not ideal because it will change everything and put keys on everything. It would be much better if I could control this like Rudiger's morph dials, where the morph is actually just a bone rotation, which is only one lane that I have to deal with. But we can hold our fingers crossed for the addition of that in future. But what I did do was I've made a body turn just by pulling this, and effectively what that does is just change the position of the bones around. Oops, I didn't actually apply it. So that's the problem with morph dials. Now I've applied it, all of the different layers that are affected, which aren't that many, but still are keyframed, and it makes it a lot more difficult to then move it around. But it does mean that I can do a rotation here, and it will look like her body is rotating. What I'll do is I'll lift this here. So it gives a really nice three-dimensional sort of quality to things to be able to do that. And all of this was done with just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7 layers. God knows how many smart bones, but I don't even look at this list because all I need to do is select a bone and then go to one of its 2 actions. So that's it for now. I hope you found that useful. Leave comments on the thread that I'm going to create, and if you have any questions or ideas, I'll be more than happy to hear them, answer them, and I'll see you around. Cheers.